the Anycubic Photon D2 DLP printer. Let's give it a review. Hey guys, I'm very excited about this one, so let's jump straight in there. But to do that, it's best if you've already watched my D2 print test video from a few days back, as I'll be picking up on points and questions raised from there. So, in this happy little box, Anycubic have enclosed their new D2, and for me it was immediately obvious that it was bigger than the Ultra. It's clear the base has grown in size, and that's to house the new projector that we'll come to later. It's a handsome machine, very plastic in its outward appearance, but I like the look. And I appreciate that Anycubic needs to keep the costs down to bring us DLP technology for home use, as typically DLPs are industrial machines, costing an easy 5 figures. I was initially shocked not to see a build plate, but it turned out that it was in the box of sundries and required a little easy self-assembly. And other than that, it's pretty much the same printer we saw with the Ultra. Sure, the base is a little taller, but the rest seems unchanged. The plate surface has the same sure grip checkered pattern we've come to associate positively with Anycubic. Just like the outer case, the resin tray is plastic, but don't let that fool you. It's plenty strong enough for the job, and the one on the Ultra is still going strong for me. Thankfully, the plastic ends at that point, and from the deck upwards we have matte black, sturdy metal construction. The Z upright appears to hold the same simple looking arm and single linear rail that we saw on the Ultra. And why not? These are tried and tested parts now that have proven stable and accurate. The screen is, well, not a screen. It's clear glass protecting a projector. If you aren't already aware, this is not a typical LCD or LED powered resin printer. Such technologies are great and have powered the home resin printer revolution to date, but they are limited and in many ways are already peaking in their abilities. Look at the Frozen Mini 8K. Since its launch back in late 2021, no one has been able to match it. Yes, other 8K printers have come along, but none are squeezing that 8K power into the same small space and giving us the 22 microns or better that Frozen has. Put simply, Frozen has set the bar higher than others are comfortably able to jump. However, LCD technology gives us blurred pixels, as I've explained before. So how can we achieve even better print quality? Well, Anycubic have once again teamed up with Texas Instruments to give us DLP technology. This uses a light projector and micro mirrors to more perfectly focus light onto each pixel, with no shadows or blurs. And this technology has been way out of price reach for most amateur users for years now. But Anycubic have changed all that. The resin tray still slides into place, which is a little disappointing. This can cause premature scratching of the FEP, so lift this gently with as much clearance as possible. The menu screen is still the same tiny one we saw on the Ultra, and the user interface is the same. But I suspect a little tinkering with the UI has taken place, as my meaty fingers don't seem to struggle like they used to. But maybe I'm just getting used to it. I did grumble about the USB port on my Ultra. I said it felt loose, and apparently I wasn't alone in this. However, that's not the case this time. It's a much firmer, positive fit. The power button though, yes, it's tiny, stupidly small in honesty, but it didn't bother me with the Ultra. But maybe I have a Friday afternoon special here, as mine feels weak. Plate leveling is the usual paper affair, and even with a slightly bigger plate, this isn't any kind of difficulty. I am a little bothered about the plate though, and I wouldn't be me if I didn't voice concern when I saw it. Anycubic advertising assures us that everything is bigger with the D2, and sure, I'm finding that. But this diagram troubles me. My build plates don't look anywhere near the same size and shape as they are on this diagram. However, maybe I had a beta model with the Ultra, or maybe even here with the D2. I can't actually find any official sizing specs for either build plate, but if we look at the slicer settings, we can get accurate printing dimensions, as fudging these figures would really screw prints up. Sure enough, a bit of maths shows us that Anycubic are correct in saying a 62% print size increase, so that's reassuring. The screen resolution for the D2 is just 2K, and the XY resolution is 51 microns. Now I know on paper that makes this printer appear to be on an equal footing with the original Anycubic, but trust me, it's a very different animal. From personal experience, I can confidently say that this printer is at the very least on equal terms with the Frozen Mini 8K. Yes, I know the apparent differences make no sense, but one is LCD technology and the other is DLP. You cannot fairly compare these using the same terminology. It's like asking a Tesla owner how many miles he gets to the gallon. However, Anycubic have said in their releases that the D2 performs in a similar manner to 8K printers, and from what I've seen, I can't disagree with that. When it comes to actual performance, DLPs bring a lot to the table, and the D2 is no exception. In use, the D2 uses around 75% less electricity than a similar spec LCD printer, using just 15 watts of power. Not only that, the projector that drives the DLP has tested to a lifespan of 20,000 hours, which is 10 times more than the 2,000 hours expected from a monochrome. If you use your printer regularly, these benefits will quickly add up. The D2 is also pleasantly quiet in use, which will allow you to relax whilst totalling up the savings on your electricity bill. At the time of recording, I was told the D2 will be available for $699 which is, shock horror, the same price as the Frozen Mini 8K. There's no Kickstarter associated with this printer, which I know many of you will be pleased to hear, and I'll place a link in the description that will take you to the right place. Now we come to the real issue. How does it print? And it seems I've already created a little controversy and confusion here, so let's clear that up. But first, Anycubic sent me a bottle of DLP CRAFTSMAN resin for use with the D2, and I'm impressed. I pretty much went with the settings that Anycubic Workshop suggested, and they worked great for me, but feel free to tinker as much as you like. Whilst I'd like the colour to be just a couple of shades darker, I've no complaints at all. All round, it's a nice resin. Now, if you saw my teaser video of the D2 print the other day, and you really should to understand what follows, you'll know I was amazed by the print quality. But judging from the comments I'm receiving, many of you are not quite grasping the message I'm trying to convey. So let me try and help by making it as clear as I can. Pixelated. Not pixelated. Pixelated. Not pixelated. Pixelated. Not pixelated. Pixelated. Not pixelated. In other words, if the print is in your hand or on a table or a shelf, you will not be seeing pixels. Instead, you'll be marvelling at how much detail these prints show. But if you magnify the prints to a level that none of us can naturally see with the naked eye, like I do in these videos, then you will see pixelation. Look at this Thor's hammer print that I designed recently. When you see the original concept up close, you get a real sense of how the Celtic knot pattern weaves in and out. And when I look at this print, I get that sense too. I'm thrilled by it actually. The clarity is excellent. but I get nervous that you guys can't see exactly what I can see, so I zoom in for you. At this point, many of you scream, "Yuck, look at the layer lines!" But actually, this is more likely the crispness of the pixels, which I have rightly or wrongly previously termed pixelation, meaning to see the pixels. DLP printers give us sharper pixel definition, and that's a great thing. Look at this amazing skull ring. The depth I've achieved in this print is better than any print I've managed before. The detail is exquisite. But close up, it looks like a Minecraft build. Well, don't worry about it. This is merely demonstrating once again how perfectly these DLP printers print. To use another example, the chances are right now you're using a viewing screen that will make this image seem larger than life. Well, guess what? Your screen is made up of pixels, thousands of them, but they are so small you can't see them, and you don't worry about boxy images. And it's the same with these DLP prints. There's loads of pixels in every print, and they're minuscule, so you can't see them. So once again, pixelated, not pixelated. You can't see the pixelation in real life. All you can see is fantastic depth and detail. If you can hold one of these prints in your hand and claim to see any pixelation, then Lois Lane is your girlfriend. Yes, there's voxel lines, but that comes with printing in layers, and every printer gives us those. These can be caused by model position, resin temperature, lift speed, layer height, etc. And that's way beyond the scope of this video. However, Antialiasing can help reduce these layer lines. And Anycubic tells us that the D2 uses a double algorithm. So I dropped down the layer height to just 0.02 and printed without AA. Then I repeated the same print test, but this time with full AA. And I think it's fair to say that there is a difference here. But in fairness, you can spend days dialing in the perfect settings for anti-aliasing, and I'm not going to do that here. Let's have a look at a model by Archvillain Games. Again, this is not a big print, it's only a 50mm base, and yet the detail screams out. Some folks have actually said to me that they'd be worried about painting a model printed on the D2, thanks to all the pixelation issues. Well, there aren't any pixelation issues, guys. There's just good quality printing. So again, let me assure you, this print looks excellent. There's bags of details and depth. I'm not much of a painter these days, but I'll slap on a bit of primer and paint and show you what I mean. I think we can say that looks pretty good. So, what do I think of the Anycubic Photon D2? Well, let's not beat about the bush. It's a 5-star printer, and credit like that doesn't usually come so quickly from me, but I genuinely love it. It's not the most robust machine, with plenty of plastic, just one linear rail and cheap switches, but I've personally lived 12 months with these same issues on the Ultra, and so far these haven't let me down. But of course there are other factors like printing volume, and whilst bigger than the Ultra, the D2 still has quite a small print area. Is it good for miniatures? Of course. Is it good for jewellery? Without a doubt. There's great precision and depth here that you truly won't appreciate until you hold a print in your hand, but it is there. The D2 is sharp, accurate and precise. It creates vivid detail and intensity. Should you buy one? Well, that's down to you. I honestly think that most people will be happy enough with the 35 microns that the Mars 3 Pro or Anycubic Mono 4K bring us, and these are priced more favourably. But some people will always seek the best they can get. They seek accuracy, fine detail, depth and quality of image. And until now, at this end of the market, the Frozen Mini 8K has had it all its own way, but not anymore. I suspect Frozen will be very worried by the equally priced D2 and may even drop their prices a little. Time will tell. Folks will ask, is it better than the Frozen Mini 8K? To answer that, I'd need more time, but from the limited prints I've done so far, it is at least as good. And of course it has those efficiency benefits that come with DLP technology. So there you have it, the Anycubic Photon D2, surely the best budget DLP printer in the world right now, and a vying contender for the best detailed budget printer if there ever was one. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop me a line. But for now, that's the end of this review, guys. So take care and thanks for watching.